was a warm summer day. My dad's washing the car, and all of a sudden, we hear this car like kind of drive up, and then kind of like that the brakes like screeching,
right.
And then he went in reverse, and all we heard was like pop, 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 and then we're running around playing, and then my father, I think he obviously surviving the war and everything, and he just yelled. He's like, get down, and we were kids, we didn't know what to do. My dad's yelling, and obviously it was crazy.
Welcome to Love, Listings, and Legacy, where love, community, and building a lasting impact meet. We are Mony and Sophaline, a husband and wife real estate team, sharing our perspectives on life, real estate, and philanthropy, our stories about resilience and service. Join us each week as we share our journey of life, business, and giving back, all while building a legacy for our family and community. This is Love, Listings, and Legacy, where hearts, homes, and philanthropy come together. Let's get started. Welcome to our new episode of Love, Listings, and Legacy. Today I have the honor of interviewing my wife, Sophaline Mao, about a little bit about her life story and then where she came from and how she got here. So, are you ready?
I am.
Okay,
yes.
All right. So I'm gonna go back a little bit, okay? So I guess first thing I would want to know about you would be, tell us a little bit about you now and a little bit about your family, a little background, just a little tidbit of background about you. And then we'll go back into time into sharing all the stories to go with it. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I'm married to you.
Yeah. Perfect, right? Yeah. The best thing ever happened. Okay.
No, but I currently reside in Livermore, California.
Mm-hmm.
Grew up in Stockton.
Yep.
I came from a family of 3 siblings. I'm the firstborn, of course,
Yay.
only girl, and I have 2 brothers.
Okay.
What else? I have 2 nephews,
Yep.
2 stepsons, and a grandson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty cool, right?
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, thank you for sharing that. So, I'm going to take you back a little bit into time, and then we'll work backward to where you are today. Okay? I'm going to start with this question. The question is, you came to the United States very, very early, when you were really, really young. Mm-hmm. Tell us what date that was, how old you were, and what are some of your early memories of your childhood?
Sure, honey. Yeah. So thank you again for allowing me this opportunity to share with you and our audience. I arrived in the U.S. with my parents, my grandmother, and my older cousin. It was December of 1980. The date, I can't tell you. I don't remember, but
you'll have to look it up now.
I'll have to look it up. My mom probably knows, but I was born in the summer of 1980, and I was born in Khmer Rouge refugee camp. And as soon as I turned 10 days old, my parents got the word that they were being sponsored to the U.S. And just like your family, arriving in the Philippines for the refugee processing center, then we landed in Seattle in the dead of winter. And it was my parents' first experience of snow in America.
Yeah. What was that like? And for you as well, right? Well, you don't remember.
I don't remember.
Yeah. What did they say about that?
What did they say? They said it was cold.
Yeah.
they said, oh my God.
Yeah.
They said in Khmer, they're like, oh, there's like takot, takot. Takot means ice.
Yeah. So real quick, you were mentioning your sponsor. I think it's really important for people to understand the background. How you were sponsored, why you were sponsored, what was going on at the time, why were your parents sponsored to come to the United States of America?
Yeah, so based on the stories told by my late father, who's no longer with us, but yeah, he was a former...
And I wish I got a chance to meet him, but go ahead, I'm sorry. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he was a former national police officer, and so my father, he worked, he was a government official, he worked mostly doing national security, protecting the former Prince Norodom Sihanouk and his delegation every time they went somewhere. So he was in law enforcement, just like you were, honey. And he had a lieutenant commander, someone who was his superior. This gentleman, his name is Luk Om Van Sa. I think he just passed away last year. But he was very instrumental in bringing so many Cambodian refugees out of Khmer Rouge refugee camp. We were one of them. But yeah, my father applied. Look, Om Van Sa, he said, hey, I'm looking for any of my officers who are surviving, and I'd like to, bring you to America. My dad applied, and sure enough, we got sponsored. Mm-hmm.
Incredible. I mean, just for him to even think of that, as a military commander, thought of his officers and then sponsor him here. When he came to the United States first, and then sponsor
Yes.
the rest of them,
Yes.
as many as he could, to come to the United States of America. It's pretty
Absolutely,
incredible.
honey.
What a legacy.
Yeah, look, he arrived in the U.S. in 1975 when the embassy and the U.S. embassy was evacuated, and a lot of people who were at risk were evacuated. And then my father's uncle, he had an uncle who was actually the ambassador to the U.S. in Cambodia at the time, and asked him to evacuate with him. They all arrived in Camp Pendleton in San Diego in 1975. Wow. They were evacuating all the Cambodian families and diplomats. And my father didn't want to leave my grandmother, his mom. He didn't want to leave my grandmother behind, and so he stayed and then had to survive the Khmer Rouge.
Wow, I can't even imagine arriving in the United States and Camp Pendleton. Actually, I've been there. I was a member of the SWAT team. I got to train there for a couple of weeks, and it was crazy. And they gassed the hell out of us, and it was a lot of fun. But that's my only memory of Camp Pendleton. But so you got here, you remember the snow, but what was some of your early childhood memories? Like, how did you end up in Stockton, but how do you end up in Stockton? And what are some of your early memories? What is the first thing that come to mind when I said that?
Thank you for asking, honey. I wish I had some of those early childhood memories, but, again, because I arrived at 5 months old, up until my growing up as a 4-year-old, 5-year-old, then I didn't remember, but I'm so grateful. I have so many family photos. My father's cousin, my aunt, and her husband Boo, they were my childhood photographers. My parents arrived; they didn't have money to purchase a camera, and mind you, this is the early 1980s. But Boo and me, my aunt and uncle, they had a camera, and boy, I was like their favorite person to photograph. So. But we left Seattle. So
you were photogenic then too?
Yeah, I think so. I was a cute kid. Oh no. After Seattle, my parents just, the climate just didn't do it for them. I think it was, obviously Seattle is beautiful. And they still have a lot of friends that they met there. But, they shortly packed up a station wagon that my father bought from his friend, another fellow police officer that he served with, who also arrived in 1975. It was a 1978 light blue Chevy Impala station wagon.
Yay.
And
a lot of room.
Yes, a lot of room. And that thing was like, 8-cylinder. It was a monster of a station wagon. That thing was a tank. And my father bought it from his friend, Un, who also has passed away, for... At the time, I think $300.
Yeah, wow.
$300.
That's crazy.
In 1981.
Now you can probably get 3 wheels.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what you get with that. But so anyway, so we loaded up the station wagon, and then we actually road tripped from Seattle to Dallas, Texas. And my aunt and uncle at the time were living in Texas, and they said, "Hey, you know what? There's jobs." In a lot of families at that time, honey, it was all about economic opportunity and where can you go to find jobs? And so sure enough, in 1981, they rolled up and they drove cross country, or actually through the, from, not cross country, but at least from Seattle to Dallas in the station wagon.
Okay.
So,
and how long did you guys live there until you came to Stockton, California?
So we were in Dallas until 1985. Actually, my parents were there for about 4 years.
Okay.
My brother Saparth, he was born in Dallas, Texas, in 1983. And so, I was used to being the only kid for a while. Then my brother came and he ruined all that. And then now he got a lot of photos of himself as a baby. You have to share some attention. I had to share the attention with him. But honey, we were really blessed because in Dallas, mom and dad got a chance to work. They were manufacturing jobs, and their first job in America was $3.50 an hour.
Wow.
And they worked in a Taiwanese manufacturing facility. And that's where they worked. And so because Ma and Pa, mom and dad worked, I was actually raised by my grandmother, my father's mother. And she obviously only spoke Khmer, and that's how I'm able to maintain my language, because I was raised by Ye until she passed away in 1985.
Well, first of all, I'm sorry to hear that, but thank goodness you're able to retain that. I think it's really, really important. So now, 85, you're really literally about 5 years old. Now, you're in Stockton, California. What are some early memories? Like, what did your parents say of those days? Do you remember the neighborhood you live in? What was it like, and things like that?
Yeah, well, it's funny when. Thank you for asking. No, I actually remember the road trip from Dallas to Stockton. Funny enough.
Yeah. What do you remember about it?
I just remember being in the car
Yeah.
and my parents were just playing music, and then I remember my mom would pack like rice and like the seko ngiet, the sun dried beef, and then I just remember we did because it took us 3 days, I want to say 3 days. And then we would stop every so often and then we'd stay in some motel. And I just remember as a kid, like being in the station wagon.
Yeah.
And at the time, it was just me and my brother, Hut, right?
Yeah.
So we were the only 2 kids. But I remember a big U-Haul, like trailer, and just all of our stuff in there.
Yeah.
But I remember arriving in Stockton. And by the time we got to Stockton, my mom was actually pregnant with my youngest brother, Peter.
Wow.
And so I remember we met up with my dad's friends, and they had donut shops. So a lot of them had donut shops.
And of course, in today's world,
Yeah.
Over 80% of donut shops are owned by Cambodian families. So we could get into that later, but that's incredible, right? That's our first ingenuity into American entrepreneurship.
Yeah, we rolled up in Stockton and, holiday drive. So, to my holiday drive crew, we...
Off of March Lane.
Off March Lane.
Yep.
Yeah, that's where we landed. And my parents were able to get a 2-bedroom, a little 2-bedroom apartment. It was a 2-story, and it's on the corner of Holiday and Comanche.
Yeah.
And that was where we were. And my mom, shortly after that, delivered my brother Peter. And so he was born in Stockton. And then my parents were like, all right, we got 3 kids. We're done. So my parents stopped at 3 kids.
Wow, I just realized it gave me a couple flashbacks. One was that my father, we moved to Stockton, California in 1984. It was a Ford Fairmont that we bought. We drove from Tempe, Arizona to Stockton, ended up in Charterway and stopped there and called Cambodian friends to come pick us up. So that's one. And then 2, I just realized that, my gosh, in 1984, we literally live about 5 blocks from each other. I was at March Lane in Kentville, which is, you live right behind Food for Less. I live on the other side of Food for Less. Holy cow.
Yeah,
wow.
we were so close to each other. Yeah.
Never met.
Yeah, never met. But, and I actually started kindergarten. I started kindergarten, and I remember starting kindergarten, and I didn't speak a word of English because I was raised by Ye, my grandma, and then my parents, obviously, they spoke Khmer at home.
Yeah.
And I spoke Khmer 100% at home. I didn't speak a word of English when I started kindergarten at Lincoln Elementary.
Yeah, wow. So, you went to Lincoln from there. They shipped me all the way to the airport. It was way the heck up down there.
Yes.
So, what a difference. You just want a few 5 blocks away and then on the other side of the track.
You were on the other side of the district line.
Yeah.
That's why.
So, holy cow. Okay. Wow. Now, I understand there's obviously every immigrants and refugees that come to the United States of America, they always struggle with the language and the new culture, the language barrier and the whole 9 yard. What are some of the things that happen at school? Anything that you could share that you remember?
Yeah, I mean, I think I just remember from a very young age, as soon as I picked up English, I was able to be my parents' translator.
Yeah.
And I handled a lot of external affairs for them involving language, involving documents, paperwork. And that was just, I can't even remember. I feel like I was just born just to do it. But I do remember, being bullied. We were obviously like in 1985, one of the first Cambodian families. There were other Cambodian families there that came later on. I'd say about 8 other Cambodian families. And we just created a community. But very early on, I kept getting beat up on the bus. And I don't know if it's just, it was like I think kindergarten, first grade.
Yeah.
I would come home crying, and my parents like, "What's wrong?" And then finally, I think I said something like, "Oh, one of the bigger kids like hit me or pulled my hair," and I had naturally curly hair, so I had these little pigtails. And my mom was so cute; she'd always dress me up. I'd have these cute little dresses with like matching bows and ribbons. And so my mom took great pride in dressing me up for school. And I think a lot of the older kids, like probably, I don't know, maybe I was too cute. They were hating on me.
Yeah. So as a result of being cute, you got bullied a little bit,
bullied.
Right? So. Did your dad respond in a Cambodian way with an axe or anything like that? No,
well, not
nothing?
with an axe. I don't think. Yeah, but yeah, one day, sure enough, he he came home early from work and he hid behind one of the trees or bushes or something. Our bus stop wasn't too far.
Right.
It was actually on Yorkshire and Holiday
I know
Drive.
exactly where it is.
That's the bus stop. And so it's like literally like I just lived around this. It was the same block, but I just lived on the corner. And I think my dad hid. I think he stood on the corner where like the kids couldn't see you, and I think they hit me or they did something to me, and I think my dad like jumped out of nowhere and he's like, you touch my daughter, I kill you. I mean, whatever. It's just in his English. And then, but he wasn't going to do anything, obviously.
Right.
But I think that scared the kids enough. So they went running home, and they lived on those apartments on Comanche. And, I can't remember what, they were, but obviously they were other kids, but they were probably like third graders. And when you're a kindergartner and or a first grader, those kids are big to you. But anyway, they went home, told their parents, and then my dad got called in by our principal and got spoken to. And he's like, Mr. Mao, you can't, threaten kids. I know you're upset. And, we'll talk to the kids'
Darn, you
parents.
can't beat them up. Okay, got it.
Yeah. He basically, my dad got talked to through a translator, obviously, at the school, and just basically said, hey, look, we'll talk to the parents of the kids, and they'll, we'll make sure that they stop bullying your daughter. So,
well, I'm glad.
But they stopped anyway.
Yeah, I'm glad he took care of that and stopped that. So, cool. All right. So a little bit more into your childhood. Obviously, you're going through elementary school and middle school and high school. Tell us those memories. Maybe in elementary school and middle school and high school. Tell us some stories or anything that you could remember that comes to mind right now.
Yeah, well, it's funny. In 1991, we actually moved to Long Beach, California. We lived in Long Beach for about 2.5, 3 years.
Okay.
And that was during the LA riots and all that. We were living in Long Beach. And so, we lived in Stockton until about, I think, the end of my 4th grade year. I think my dad had some really great friends, and obviously Long Beach, California is the seat of the Cambodian community.
It's the largest Cambodian population today in America.
Largest concentration of Cambodians in the U.S. And so, again, going back to economic opportunity, my father always had big ambitions, big dreams, and then he would just tow my mom and I and my brothers, along with him. But yeah, he was like, hey, there's job opportunities in Long Beach because it's a huge port and it's next to L.A. and there's a large Cambodian community. So they wanted a sense of the support from the community. And so we moved to Long Beach, California. And I remember, again, loading up that Chevy Impala station wagon with the U-Haul trailer.
With great pride having that Chevy Impala, though. Yes.
Yep. We left some things behind with family in Stockton. We took what we could. Yeah. And then we landed in Long Beach and we shared a room. We rented a room. Yeah. You met them, Ming and Poo.
Yeah, recently. Yeah.
Yeah, my mom's best friend. And they had an extra room, and sure enough, 5 of us, or I think maybe somehow they had 4 boys. We had, me and then my 2 brothers. Yeah. We rented a room. So from 5th grade to about 6th grade and half of 7th grade, I was in Long Beach. And that's where I really got to experience what it was like growing up in more of an urban community. I do remember the LA riots. I remember I don't know if, for those who are really young, there was the Rodney King beating and the whole LAPD thing. And then the LA riots occurred. It actually spread into Long Beach. Yeah. And I remember my dad didn't let me take the bus that day. He actually drove to my school, got me, and drove home. And honey, I will never forget this, but driving home right on Pacific Coast Highway in Long Beach, this mob of people, we're at a stoplight, mind you, and they just bashed the window of this store, and my dad he just looked left, he looked right, and he went. He didn't wait for the light to turn green.
Yeah, those were crazy times. I still remember. I think a couple of years before I became a police officer, I remember seeing that on Nightline. And, they were showing the video of the 4 officers beating up on Ronnie King. And I'm like, man, that's about they're going to change the whole entire country. And sure enough, the riot occurred and all that happened. And you were in the heart of all of that.
Oh, yeah. It was I saw it outside the passenger window. And then also, too, it was my first drive-by shooting. It was in Long Beach when we lived in Long Beach. My brothers, they were, they're kids. We're all playing outside. It was a warm summer day. My dad's washing the car. And all of a sudden, we hear this car kind of drive up, and then kind of that the brakes screeching,
right?
And then he went in reverse, and all we heard was pop, 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 and he was shooting not on our side of the street, but at somebody across the street. And then we're running around playing, and then my father I think, he obviously surviving the war and everything. And he just yelled. He's like, get down, get down. And we were kids. We didn't know what to do. My dad's yelling. And obviously, it was crazy. But I'll never forget that as I think I was like 11.
Yeah.
11,
Wow.
11 or so. But then shortly after that, because of that, well, the LA riots, and then also witnessing a drive-by shooting in front of our home, my parents were like, we're getting the heck out. And then my dad started developing really bad asthma and a lot of respiratory issues. He was going to the emergency room every week, honey.
Wow.
And we think it was just the air quality where we lived.
Yeah.
We lived near some refineries, and there was an Arco refinery in Wilmington that blew up. It exploded, and we felt the explosion as kids.
And all the chemicals that came with it.
Right. So that was also another incident that I'll never forget. My brothers had bunk beds, and Hut fell. Fell.
Yeah.
The explosion was so powerful. Hut fell off the second bunk
Holy
bed,
cow.
and he fell down.
Yeah.
And then after that, my parents said, you know what? Let's just move back to Stockton.
Wow.
So they came back to Stockton, and I was in time to start, I believe, 7th grade, and then I went to Sierra Middle School.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Ooh, short-lived, right? That's and when you describe that, actually gave me a lot of flashbacks too to all the struggles we had to go through. We went from Kentfield to Burnett Drive to Fox Creek, just all the different neighborhoods. Just trying to find the place and our place in life and our the safety net of it. But you also want to be around enough Cambodian people so you could feel the culture and the language and all that.
Support.
It's real. It's real. So. Now you came back to Stockton, California. You're going to Sierra Middle School, and you're in 7th grade. So what was that experience like in the middle school, and what helped shape you to become the person that I know today? But what was that? What were some of the things that you did in middle school to help shape you?
Yeah, well, first of all, I still have the same group of friends. My girlfriends, like Mono, Cece, Sally, Amber, they're my middle school friends. Actually, I still keep in touch with a lot of my middle school friends. But, growing up around a lot of Cambodian-American friends, you do get a sense of culture because we all feel each other's how our parents raise us, the values, the things that like parents say in Khmer, we could, relate to each other. But yeah, high school was great, honey. I think I went to Lincoln High, and I was very fortunate to have gone to that high school. We had the Lincoln High School Khmer Student Club, and so I got really involved with the Khmer Club. Also student government. I was like the Associated Student Body Secretary. I did a lot of speech and debate. I did the drama club. I found myself immersed in a lot of these extracurriculars because, number one, it gave me an opportunity to get out of the house. Because growing up, when you're the first daughter of refugees, especially from Cambodia, they have a lot of fear. They have a lot of mistrust against what's going to happen to my daughter if I let her go out. They just had a lot of...
They're just afraid you're having boyfriends and not concentrate on school.
Yeah, so, exactly. Yeah. They were very
Which is
strict.
Real.
Yeah, very real. And this is the 90s. This is the 1990s. Our parents were only in America for like 10 years, right?
Yeah.
They were still very apprehensive about letting you go, right? And I think because I was the first kid as well, they wanted to make sure I turned out okay. And so I just really...
That's because you're not a boy, because if you're a boy, you get to do what you want to do. Just like I did. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it was a little different. It was a little different. But my parents always set high expectations for me to be a good role model for my brothers. And they always raised me with strong values of just doing the right thing and being a good person. But education was also very, very highly valued in my home. And so I didn't grow up having to do a lot of things that were outside of academics. What I mean by that is like my parents didn't expect me to work while I'm studying. They, I had light chores, but those were only on days that I didn't have like homework and projects and preparing for like a speech or like a debate match.
Right, but you weren't playing sports or anything like that either,
I didn't do sports. I mean, besides like the PE and stuff.
Right.
I played badminton with like my friends and stuff, but I just wasn't an athletic kid, but I really excelled academically. I was able to take a lot of AP courses.
What were some of your favorite classes that you took?
Yeah, definitely U.S. government. I think that was really good. AP, U.S. history. I was just excited that I could take these AP classes and not have to take them again in college. So I think I was like, oh yeah, this is cool.
Did you do things and obviously brought up as in a traditional family, mom and dad, but also as a Cambodian woman, right? A young lady at the time. Did you have to do certain things, or did you volunteer, or what are some of the things that helped shape you? My understanding is you are very, very involved in the community, doing things to help the Cambodian community, but also which allows you to be some way traditional Cambodian, but also very American at the same time. Later in your later years, we'll talk about that in a minute. But tell us, what are some of the things you did in terms of community that helped shape who you are?
Yeah, no, thank you. That's a great question, honey. I think my parents never prevented me from assimilating into American culture. It was never like, they never shamed me or made me feel bad and tried to preserve me as this, like, ideal traditional Cambodian daughter. They never did that, but they also placed an emphasis on Khmer culture. And so one of the things they would do is often go to the Buddhist temple, the Wat, right? So that was something that we did as a family,
right.
Since I can remember, like, from the 1980s, we always went to the temple. So that allowed me to just grow up being very comfortable around the culture. And also they really did a good job of making sure that my brothers and I understood Cambodian norms. And when I say norms, like, just, like,
and
things
traditions
like,
as well.
Cultural norms, like, for example, when you see an elder, you chadip sua,
right.
show respect. Also, you when you're walking past an elder, you
bow down.
You bow down. You take off your shoes when you go into someone's house. My parents really taught us to be well-mannered kids, but they didn't expect us.
Thank goodness for that.
Yes, So they didn't expect us to, like, become these, like, traditional kids. But I did do, like, the wishing dance, learning all the Khmer dances, and then also through Lincoln High School's Khmer Student Club, we always did the multicultural week. We'd always participate in that. So we would, like, make food, like beef sticks and sakoang and egg rolls and stuff. Our parents obviously helped us make it, but we would sell it at school and raise money for our club.
Yeah.
Guess what we did with the money?
You donated to the temple.
We would, donate, but we also went to Great America.
Wow!
It was an annual Great America trip that we did. Yep.
They did some fun with it, and in addition to giving back to the community. So what year did you graduate, and what are some of your memories of your high school? What are some of the best memories you have?
Well, now I have to, like, date myself, but yeah, I graduated in 1998.
You don't have to date yourself. You're dating me.
No, I mean, like, dating myself as in, like, how old I am. But yeah, I graduated in 1998 from Lincoln High School, and it was great. At high school, I loved high school. I had great memories, like, high school wasn't, like, a horrible experience for me. But I also, was more excited about, like, moving on past high school.
Yeah.
And then a lot of my friends in high school, a lot of them chose to, like, go off to college. Most of them went to, like, Sacramento, Davis. Some went to, like, SoCal, and then others just chose to, stay in Stockton.
Yeah, but you also chose to stay in Stockton for a while, right? You went to San Joaquin Delta College.
I went for, like, a semester.
Yeah, you went
or so.
Yeah, and then what you went there? What was your experience? And then what made you propel to your next decision of leaving Stockton, California altogether and going to the university?
Yeah, well, honey, I don't know if I ever shared this with you, but one of my biggest dreams was to go to, like, UCLA or USC. I actually wanted to go away for college.
Yeah.
Like, not so far from my parents, but I did actually want to go away.
Yeah.
However, due to financial constraints and due to just my parents being very protective and their fear of having me so far away, for them, their ideal situation was if I could actually, stay in Stockton, and they wanted me to go to the University of the Pacific, where a lot of my friends actually went to.
It's a great,
it's a wonderful school.
Great school, great private schools, and actually one of the best in the country. Yeah.
Yeah, but so I said, okay, well, that didn't work out. So I went to San Joaquin Delta College, and I did a lot of my GE classes there, but I did not stay long because I just didn't see myself in that lifestyle that I saw. Like, a lot of I just felt like I was just in the same environment. It was just like a high school with just the same people. And I think for me, at the age of, like, 18, I was 18 when I graduated, and I was like, you know what, like, my parents came all the way from Cambodia, endured all that. Like, is just, I need more. I need more.
Right. No, I totally get it. And again, we live a few blocks from each other, never met. And in 1998, you went to San Joaquin Delta College. I went to San Joaquin Delta College in 1993, or 1991 until 1995. And then I went to the police academy and I graduated from there. So, wow, just a lot of the same journey in essence. But to me, it was the same thing. It was like, man, I couldn't wait. I just went there to do what my requirement was, and then so I could move on to the next. But to that point. So you were at San Joaquin Delta College, and then what was the process like? What did you have to pass a test, and then you ended up going to San Francisco State University, right? So what happened?
Oh, I was just so ready to get out of Stockton and just, really live that independent life that I had been dreaming about, as a young girl. Yeah. And so finally I was able to convince my parents to allow me to move to San Francisco. And so I started looking up
Second
universities.
semester? Really? Okay.
Yeah, so I had units, and I think I actually didn't start San Francisco State University until fall 1999. Wow. Was when I arrived. So I applied, and sure enough, I was able to transfer my units from Delta College, and so I wasn't super far behind. But even if I was far behind, I just was so ready to just, go. But yeah, sure enough, I got accepted at SF State, did my FAFSA application. Yep. At the time I was able to get a lot of grants because I was first in my family to go to college, and also then just some student
But you also did
loans.
well in academically.
Academically, yes. Yeah, I did well. And then even at Delta College, my GPA was really strong, but luckily I was able to have a lot of those units count anyway. But yeah, I arrived in San Francisco State University. I lived at Mary Ward Hall. Yeah. And my parents were very supportive, and so I remember again that 1978 Chevy Impala that drove us from Seattle. Right. My dad in 1999, believe it or not, 19 years later, drove me, packed up all my stuff. My mom, my dad, and I think my two siblings drove from Stockton to San Francisco and dropped me off, helped me move into my dorm room. Wow. I got a mini rice cooker, and I got an electric kettle. Yeah. And they got to see my dorm room. They got to meet my roommate at the time and her parents, but they were there for me on move-in day. Wow. So that's obviously significant, right? It's life-changing. One, being a woman and a female in a Cambodian traditional household, to leave home and to go to a different city, to be completely away from home. Yeah, I didn't know anybody.
And so now you're here on campus. What was that feeling like, and what was that freedom felt like to you?
Yeah, well, it was great because and obviously they have you room with someone, and my roommate, shout out to her, Ariana. She grew up in Sebastopol, right? And she was a SF State President Scholar, and so her 4 years at the university was all paid for. And she was great. And I lived in Mary Ward Hall. I had a co-ed floor, honey. And my dad, oh my God, it was so funny. My dad realized it was a co-ed floor because he saw boys moving in, and he's like, what? He's like, wait, he's like, you're on a floor with dudes? And I'm like, yes, pa. And I was like, oh, don't worry. But, obviously the men's showers and restrooms and stuff. It was so funny because it was on my side of the dorms. Yeah. And so all the guys, they would have to walk by in their towels and carry their little shower caddies. They had to walk by our door to get to their shower. And for us,
you didn't do any cat calling, right?
Oh, no. Yeah, okay. But then, anyway, I think that was the one surprise my dad got. I was like, oh yeah, but it was fine. But yeah, I mean, I think my college experience was great. I met my sorority sisters of Delta Omicron Chi sorority. Again, honey, I didn't know anybody. Right. I landed there. Yeah. Ariana, my roommate, was the first friend I made.
Brand new. You're even though you're here, but you're like an international student. You're brand new, foreign.
Brand new. Yeah. And
first one in the family to go to college too.
Yep. And I met my friend Karen, who went to Bear Creek High School. And she was like, hey, I have my high school friend. She's in a sorority. Do you want to go? And they had Rush Week. And so Rush Week is basically all the sororities and fraternities have tables out all week at the student center, and you can go and meet them while they're tabling. And so you get to kind of interview different sororities. And what they do during Rush Week is they have events. And so it could be at a restaurant or wherever. Basically, it's a recruitment week. Right. And then they will give you a bid to basically pledge. So that was my introduction to Greek life,
what's a pledge for some people out there? I've never been in a college life. I don't know what a pledge is. Yeah. Other than the allegiance to the flag, but go ahead.
It's basically that. Yeah. So basically during Rush Week, that's your chance to get to know all the sororities or fraternities. And then you get to go to their parties. You get to go like meet the sisters or brothers.
I would have been in a lot of trouble, but go ahead.
Yeah. So you get to like meet them, and then you get to learn about their organization. And then you decide if you would like to pledge. And pledge is basically a process of going through all the rituals, going through like kind of like an intern. It's almost like an internship.
Yeah.
But then what happens is the sorority or fraternity will give you a bid.
Yeah.
A bid is an invitation to pledge.
Yeah.
And then you decide if you want to move forward or
Got
not. And then you have you have your pledge sisters or your pledge brothers. That's like a cohort.
Yeah.
It's like a cohort that you start and you finish with.
Gotcha.
And it's usually you pledge throughout the whole entire semester. You have a pledge mom or pledge dad or whatever, and they're basically in charge of your program. It's very I can't reveal too much, but
there's some secret
process.
to it. Okay, but you did join a sorority.
Yes,
right?
I did.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and what was that? Did it give you some sisterhood, or it give you a lot of support? It give you a lot of emotional support and other support that you may not have gotten because this is your first,
Absolutely.
first experience in college.
When you go through an experience like being in a sorority, you are sisters because you've gone through hell and back, and you've gone through so many trials and tribulations, and even just being a part of just the college experience.
Right.
We were there for each other. We all became roommates. We eventually, later on, we were all in each other's weddings. I'm a godmother to one of my sorority sisters.
Wow.
So it's a lifelong friendship, and they become your second family. But to your point, though, they do provide that social aspect and that emotional support.
Absolutely.
You also have friends in class.
Right.
So those are the people that you meet, who are part of your major. You take the same classes.
Right.
Like Rata.
Yeah.
Rata, who we know and love. Rata and I met, in an ethnic studies class, and we were in the bathroom, and we heard the professor calling out the names, and I heard her name, and I was like, oh my God, that sounds Khmer. And I sure enough, we were in the bathroom, and then we looked at each other like, are you Khmer?
Yeah.
So, I think it's a great way to meet people and have that social circle that's going to be your support.
No, I think it's really, really important that you have that, anywhere you go in life, whether it's family or sorority. So you were there for 3.5 years, 4 years?
Yeah. So,
What are some of the classes that has been transformational for you? Like gave you aha moments, goes, oh my gosh, this is what I love about college. This is what I love learning. And that it propelled me to something different.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Great question. So I actually applied as a cellular molecular biology major, something like that.
Wow. Sounds really smart. But
it was a bio major, and I think that's how my dad okayed me to go. I was supposed to go on a medical school and pre-med. Every Asian parent wants their kid to be a doctor.
That was my ticket.
Accountant. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was my ticket. My dad's like, okay. So I was a bio major, and actually, you know what? I went through all the classes. So I did my general chem, my bio, my physiology, anatomy. I did all the science classes, and then finally, I had to retake physiology. Now, mind you, honey, I am like a kid that gets like 4.0. GPA is never an issue for me, but physiology kicked my butt.
Yeah.
And when I had to retake physiology,
you failed that class. Is that what you're saying?
I got a D. I think I got like a D or something like that the first time.
Yeah.
And then because you're a bio major, you need to be able to pass with a C or better.
Yeah.
To be able to graduate with that degree. And so I had to retake physiology, and I think that second time around was like hit me like a brick a brick wall. Was like, what the hell are you doing? And then I took an elective class, or it's like I would think it was like part of like your GE. I took it on, I think, ethnic studies. I'm like, oh, ethnic studies, like this sounds interesting.
Yeah.
That opened the door to me changing my major from a bio focus to now the College of Ethnic Studies. And I focus on Asian-American studies.
I bet you didn't tell your parents about that, did you?
I didn't tell them, no.
What was that conversation like when you had to tell them?
I didn't tell them because I felt like, well, number one, I knew my parents loved me either way. That was a given. Right. I also, just that fear, I think for me it was like mostly disappointing my dad. But I knew that he would eventually, support me because I was going to be a college graduate either way. But I think I finally told him, and I think he didn't talk to me for like 2-3 months.
Yeah.
He was pretty disappointed, but he did show up to my my commencement when I got my bachelor's degree in Asian American Studies.
Yeah, a little bit disappointed, but I'm sure he's still very, very proud.
Yeah.
So, the ethnic studies, and then what led to your next propulsion into continue education? Because you didn't finish there. You finished San Francisco State University, got your degree, got your bachelor's degree,
yeah,
right? And then you said, you know what? And you actually went to work a little bit, my understanding, right? You work, you've done all kinds of different things, from waitering and to interning to doing all kinds of things. And then at the same time, while you're working, you say you had an opportunity to continue education.
Yeah. So one thing I probably should mention was that, my parents were very financially, they still had my brothers and stuff, and they were very humble, and they didn't have a lot of financial resources. And so I paid my entire way through college through grants and scholarships and loans. And then also
that in itself is not easy because you have to learn how to apply for all these things. And it took a lot of time to do so. Yeah.
And I should probably share with you, honey, I worked 3 jobs simultaneously.
You said you had to work 3 jobs simultaneously while going to school, right? What are those jobs?
Yeah, so I worked on campus at the office of the Vice President for Business and Finance. And I'm going to tell you, honey, that job really laid the foundation for professionalism. Being a professional, because I was the front person when anyone would come in to meet with the vice president of the university. And he was a gentleman who oversaw the entire San Francisco State University budget.
Wow.
So business and finance, he was the big VP. And then he had an assistant vice president. And so I was just that college student that would come in 20 hours a week. But that really taught me so much professionalism. I still keep in touch with them.
What did you learn when you said?
What did I learn?
Yeah, what did you learn?
Showing up on time.
Right.
Being able to deliver projects, being able to communicate to someone at an executive level.
Right. You saw how emails were written. You saw how presentations were made. It wasn't just haphazardly. It was all planned, all thoughtful. And you have to think about the big picture of who's seeing all these things as well, right? Because when these vice president present,
and also helping him to prepare to meet with the president of the university. I just had such a great experience, and I actually worked there for several years, and they just kept rehiring me on. And then I also worked at Nordstrom right next to the university. That was the Stonestown.
Yeah. Wow, that's a long story from your early days when you came to America to your journey to Seattle, to Stockton, California, to Long Beach, back to Stockton, and then to San Francisco as you graduated from the University of San Francisco, as well as San Francisco State University. Word of advice, anything that you want to share with our audience about what was that all about? And we'll talk about part 2 later on about your life with Salesforce and the international studies and the whole 9 yard. But any last words?
Yeah, I think don't allow your circumstances that you're born into to define you. And what I mean by that is that, we don't get to pick and choose how we start out in life, but we do get to determine the path that we take. And that's through the decisions that we make. And that just comes with failures. That just comes with disappointments, heartbreaks along the way. But it also comes with a lot of great moments of triumph and feeling like, you did it. So I think my advice is that, never let anyone deter you from your dreams. And although they may have good intentions, at the end of the day, it's your life and it's your journey. Whether or not you succeed or fail, it doesn't matter. It's because it's your story. So yeah.
And you said the word journey, it's never straight like an arrow, right? There's bumps along the road, and sometimes you may want whatever you want, but you may not get it because the journey can be long or longer at times. Am I correct?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. And sometimes it just isn't the right timing and it's maybe not the right opportunity. And when you look at like sometimes like personal relationships, it's just not the right person, at that time. And so I think, that's just, a little bit about my journey. And I hope that people who listen to it find inspiration somehow to continue doing what they do. And it's not to like, look at me and my accomplishments. No, we each have a special journey. And that is our story to tell. So thank you, honey, for allowing me to share.
Thank you for sharing your story, and you're inspiring. You are motivating. I'm hoping that other people will see that the same way, that the road is long, but it could be amazing. It just depends, when things are happening for you. But thank you for sharing your story with us.
Great. Well, thank you. Right. And let's look forward to the next episode.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining Love, Listings, and Legacy this week. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. If you haven't yet, go to Apple Podcasts and Spotify to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast. Join us next time as we continue to navigate the path from adversity to success, one property and one purpose-driven decision at a time. Thanks for listening.